Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Rise and Grind with 72 the Architect, aka Jason B. And today we're going to talk about the fear and growth with your AI. That's right, AI. So we're going to be talking about ChatGPT, artificial intelligence, the fear, the growth. What are we going to do with exactly what's coming our way and what's now unraveled to us? So stay tuned in just a moment, and we'll get right to it. All right, everybody. So what is it? It is what is it? January 13th. All right. So it's Friday, and a lot of us are talking about many of the things coming up. And sometimes it seems like it's a little overwhelming, and other times it doesn't. And we're thinking about what are the brand new tools that are coming out and unraveling to our phones, to our digital experience, our business. People are thinking about where they can go with their careers, changing their mindset, all that great stuff. But recently, and I would say fairly recent, as of November 30th, there was a program called ChatGPT that was released out into the public. Now, what is ChatGPT? ChatGPT is an artificial intelligence um, prompt. It can write so many things. It can write a script. It can write a letter for you, an email. It can even write code, and even it's available. It has a thinking engine to develop results. So, like you want to talk about underwater scuba diving, or you want to talk about sailing, and to write you a script or a blog for you, and you basically are going to input a lot of data. But this does come with a caveat, though. And what is that caveat? That caveat is am I going to be afraid, and is this going to take out my job? Because it does have the potential and the propensity to be able to do exactly that. Data entry, basic nominal skills. Do you have to hire as many people? A digital assistant. Even my writing prompt for the introduction of the show was written. It was inspired by me. I wrote a full 2 paragraphs, and then I put it in the chat GPT playground, and it output. And here's what it came up with. So I'll share with you in just a moment. Let me switch over to the screen and share it with you all. And just to give you guys a bird's eye view of exactly what I'm talking about. All right, so here we go. And here's what it wrote for me. It says, Rise and Grind with 72 the Architect, the fear and growth with your AI. AI technology has been given the most significant attention for the last month and a half, but ChatGPT came out main for for many influencers and businesses and entrepreneurs and regular people who have been talking about artificial intelligence. The discussion to do and have their ups and downs, the questions arise, will the machine take me out? But to answer this question, for many is not so easy. The skepticism presents, but what about the optimism? AI can be a great tool for the use to use at work, to working smarter, not harder. It can help to automate the mundane tasks and free up more time to focus on the things that matter. It can be a powerful tool to help us maximize our potential and reach our goals. However, there is a fear of the unknown, that the outcomes of AI. And what if AI makes mistakes? What if the machine can't be trusted? The answer to the fears is it. The answer to these fears is education. We need to understand how AI works and the implications of using it. We need to be aware of its capabilities and its limitations. We need to be mindful of the ethical implication of using AI. And at the end of the day, it's used responsibly. AI can be a great tool to help us become more productive and efficient. We must be mindful of the potential risks and be prepared to take responsibilities of our actions. Rise and Grind with 72 Architect. Let's embrace AI and use it to our advantage, and let's use it to fuel our growth and ensure and remain in control of our future. Now, that was, I would have to say right now, after my edits, about 50% of AI. So I wrote probably 5 or 6 sentences, and it wrote several more. But what it did, I also use an AI paragraph editor called Grammarly, and many of us are using Grammarly, and Grammarly also is another artificial intelligence prompt. It will help correct your sentence structure. It can check and see if you're plagiaristic, if you're copying some false facts. It can do a lot of different things. And for the average Joe, it can really turn writing right around. So that's something that we really got to pay attention to is, I mean, what is really authentically us and how are we going to tackle this object, right? It's very important that you understand the tools and where are the parameters going to go. Let's see. I have Graciela, who also made a comment. Let's see what she says. Thank you so much for coming on out. I do admit it's a bit stressful to write, to be a writer for many years. And now I ponder that anyone can write 1K words in seconds with just one click. And I agree with that. It is, writing is not easy for anybody. Even me, I love writing, and I approach writer's block sometimes. And if I allow the assistance of AI to help me get through the threshold, maybe I can continue on. But there is a note of caution, which most of us are adhered to. We have seen many movies. I'm 50 years old, so I've seen many movies of science fiction and things anywhere from Star Trek to Terminator to The Matrix. We can't ignore that AI was implanted in our thought process for the last 60, maybe even 70 years, right? And maybe even further than that. I remember seeing as a kid the old black and white rendition of Flash Gordon and traveling through space. But I've also remember watching as a kid a movie called um, what was it? 2001 Space Odyssey, that's right, and the nemesis at the end of the movie, without ruining it, was a character, an artificial intelligence character named Hal. He was operating the ship while they traveled through space, and in the movie, Hal ends up being an adverse enemy to the human being who's trying to recover control of the spaceship because the guy's outside and Hal knows that he's been doing some really grievous things and he killed other crewmates. So in the movie, Hal does not want to let the human on board, the captain, and the captain forgot his, I believe he forgot his space helmet or something. No, he forgot something about his oxygen container. And in the movie, he's trying to get on board and he doesn't succeed, but yet this alien obelisk comes in and it takes over the ship, and they end up making a sequel. I think it was called 2010 Space Odyssey. So Hal was seen as a rogue entity. It was coming with consciousness of itself. Now, warp speed it to today, what we've really got to realize is like it's here and now. But we can't ignore that technology has made many advancements, anywhere from your cell phone, your laptop, even my Rodecaster Pro that I'm producing live on my interface. Everything, my camera is no longer printing on film, it's printing on a digital space, or it's producing live on, live stream. And I am producing in so many different spaces, but can we take the growth over the fear? Now, is this something you're going to be able to stop? I don't think that our stop is really going to be as easy as we think, because many people, and I've heard it in Clubhouse, I have heard it in Wisdom, I've heard it in many spaces. Oh, ChatGPT is so great. Artificial intelligence. What's next? Robotics. There's even a television series that recently was on HBO Max, and it was called Westworld, inspired by a movie and a book called Westworld from the 60s, which had Yul Brynner. But the interesting thing is that people are becoming more aware of what these things are doing. It even believes that it can be a sentient being, a live human being, or a being in itself. So we have to ask a lot of different questions, but really we want to focus on what can I do for it? How is it controlled? How is it made? Now, if you want to go to openai.com, you will be able to register for ChatGPT, but you're probably using AI more than you think. For example, every time when I call Xfinity or I want to talk about my bill, it will give me a prompt to chat with on my billing questions. But it does have glitches and sometimes is inconclusive. So it now think about this. Many of us complain about teaching, right? That teachers and schools don't teach us enough. Now think about this. This can be fear or it can be growth. Think about your child being able to learn on a one-on-one mentor from an artificial intelligence entity that will be able to explain things in a more paced manner instead of memory. It's going to take learning to a whole new capability if cultivated properly. And that's where we kind of come up with ethical design. So, even recently, I read an article. I was reading an article, Robot Lawyers Set to Defend a Human in US Court. This is set to happen. And I found this on Cron Channel 4. I'm not sure what city this is in, but let me share it with the screen real quick. Let's see. Let's go over to the screen. Boom, boom, boom. Okay. And share. All right. So, what it basically says, no, let's go to wider view. There we go. It basically says that a robot lawyer would you trust it? The world's first robot lawyer is taking a first case in the US courtroom next month. The app called Do Not Pay uses artificial intelligence and AI and claims it can fight corporations and beat bureaucracy and sue anyone and the press of a button. Now, Joshua Broder, a 2018 Thiel Fellow, invented Do Not Pay. He started the company by an accident. And I'm originally from England, blah, blah, blah. And I moved here. So this thing does present problems. Now, if your child or whoever wanted to become, let's say, an attorney at law, would there be a necessary for attorneys? And should we give something like that so much control? Because AI doesn't proceed unless it gets a feed of information. All these artificial intelligence prompts, they had thousands of data entry, and the one thing that really stands out is exactly this. It learns off of your use. It learns off of, and it's even farming our data. The cell phone, we can't ignore that the cell phone companies, the app companies are all selling parts of our data, even your recordings, your imprints, your pictures, your aneurysms. It will be able to invent a style of an android replicated after you and even me. And what problems could that also present? There could be a new level of hackers. There could be imposters. But for some people, they're not so worried about that. But who creates the parameters in which there's an ethical use? That's a big question. I myself have recently looked into working possibly for OpenAI. I looked in their efficacy and safety protocols, and I've been reviewing the website. I've been looking at the training modules, and there are a lot of great things about it, and I can't deny that. But our own soul, our individuality is probably one of the most important things that we cannot ignore. Can a being such as artificial intelligence, AI, take us out? As the fear, we cannot ignore the fear. I mean, think about it. When you saw Arnold Schwarzenegger's movie, The Terminator, did you not get scared? Did it not present um, an inspiration of that a machine could take over human beings? We can't ignore that. And many of us do talk about movies like The Matrix, right? Are we in a dimensional space? Are we the AI? We can't ignore these inspirational thoughts. You know, I really can't ignore that. And, for me, where is the growth? Either I'm going to spend so much time trying to fight it, or I'm going to use it to my advantage. Now, there are many users that I've come across that have said, "Hey, look, I've written my blog posts. It's helped me formulate my blogs. in seconds without me having to overly edit, or writing a YouTube script, writing a carefully crafted email response, or even a resume to websites. Website design is probably one of the most hardest things, and it's even writing code. That's right, code. But these are things that we have to think about. Where do we create the limits? And who's in control of those limits? Because in the wrong hands, let's just say a company that has their own business interests, in the wrong hands of a certain company, they can deem what your business can be done and cannot be done, and your rights and responsibilities. We then would have to question the reach of, for those of us who live in the United States, we'd have to actually question the level and the ability of what the Constitution purveys. We'd have to update even our legal system and our documents. Could a robot, an AI robot, really help another attorney become better, or a doctor? Think about this. The errors in law or medicine or whatever could be reduced in half. The insurances, artificial intelligence could, end up driving us instead of we driving and being control. It's projected in 2035 that all sales of gas-powered vehicles will be banned in the state of California. This was promoted by Gavin Newsom last year. They do want to get rid of gas-powered vehicles. Well, what it will be replaced with is electric vehicles and AI driving those vehicles to a degree. Transportation can be streamlined, and the less and less of actions, or the the likeliness of accidents happening, will be greatly reduced. The need for insurance will be gone. And those are critical things. What about if you're a brand new business owner and you just can't afford the payroll to pay an assistant? Possibly be. What about data entry? All the data entry centers or call centers. Many of us complain about the call centers overseas, that we cannot understand those who come from another country with a bad accent, or we're being afraid of our jobs being taken over. This grant us a whole new frontier of evolution in the creative thought? It can. I'm not going to deny it. But owning our own personal identity comes to question. And if you didn't come to question on this, you're a fool. Now, every time you input your personal information, your email, your phone number, even your voice, something is tracking you at any given time. And we're like, and in California, there is prompts every time I go into a website. It asks me about the cookies. And what are cookies? Cookies are tracking elements that see your keystroke, your IP address, um, you know, everything about your movement, about what you're using their website, so they can improve their services. This is a form of artificial intelligence, and it creates a data stream where the creators, the code writers, the developers of websites, to streamline their business to go forward and better, to make you more enticed to use their service, or even addicted. Many of us are addicted by, anytime we have a question, we don't go to libraries and we don't go to encyclopedias pretty much anymore. I don't know anybody who has a set of encyclopedias, but I did remember growing up with them. But our new source, or our recent source for the last 20 years, has been Google. Even Google feels threatened by AI or ChatGPT. And so Microsoft has invested, I think, about $30 billion, I recall hearing, but I'd have to look into that to be able to confirm. But that's allegedly, right? We have to really look at our options as ourselves. Me, as a working individual, I need to make sure that I can take care of my family, that nothing is going to make just decisions. Will I have freedom of will and choice? Is the laws going to be written in the favor of the masses and not being an individual? Our individual rights are so very important, as well as our identities. Elon Musk has been quoted in saying, "I'm looking forward to implanting a chip to help streamline my creativeness and my intelligence." He did say these things. And I'm paraphrasing what he said. He's like, "Hey, I could see in the future we could implant in our minds to streamline our creative thoughts and process, and not get hung up on our emotions, or what do they call it? Triggers." Our traumas of the past should not be roadblocks of our present and our future. This has been implicated in many different discussions that I've heard. Now, this is something very scary to me. I don't want no chip in my brain. My living experience is mine and nothing else. When I pass, I do not want my consciousness printed on any microchip. I don't. When I die, my memories, my legacy will be on the places that I've committed to digital imprints. That means my social media, my even my YouTube, my podcasts, all that great stuff, and it is great. I can't say that I haven't taken advantage of the use of any of these things, but it goes back to the ethical design. Where do I create the limits? Now, according to ChatGPT, it will not, if you ask it and prompt it, hey, how to create a pipe bomb, it more than likely, because of the parameters that it's designed with currently, will not give you the prescription. It will not tell you exactly how to do it verbatim or even how to kill somebody. And there is safety protocols within the design, but there's always wordsmithing to work your way around it. If you said something like hypothetically and follow up with a sentence, it could be damaging or hurting to somebody, but what limit do we bring it to? And that's where it's very important that every single person understands their intellectual property rights. I'm suggesting this because I've done research. And what we agree to every time we agree to let's say, an upgrade of the tech, when you get that prompt, update your iPhone or update your Android. Many of us, I would say the majority of us, we do not read the agreement use. I've had to reevaluate that myself, and it's long, but there's more to it than just understanding. How can we fight something that is people are grasping onto and saying, "Hey, you're cutting my time in half." And maybe I can cut costs, cut my spending, unnecessary spending. Many people have complained of that they don't have workers truly dedicated to their business. But yet the workers complain we're not paid a fair, equitable wage to be able to support myself and fight inflation. You can't ignore these things. But the exploration, my thought is, and I was talking to my significant other, I was like, we have to think beyond the limitations of the fear. We have to start thinking outside the metaphorical matrix. Last night, I was discussing with others in Clubhouse the point of the red and the blue pill. I brought up an analogy that most kind of understood, but debated. And what the elements or what the results of those conversation came out of fear and ignorance. But I'm like, to my screen name, the architect. If you looked in the matrix, the architect, it as an AI being, it literally prescribed an answer for it all. Do I need to make the red or blue pill choice? There is another option, a dimensional option. Because once you make one of the two choices, if you don't make one of the two choices, it is a choice. And some people will argue and say, well, you are agreeing to stay oblivious to what's going on. But constantly we are taking red and blue pills. Every outcome that has come before us is because we've made a discerning choice. And me, one who studies philosophy and stoicism, I definitely will tell you that sometimes patience will be your greatest attribute, your greatest asset. And understanding all this is amazing, right? Because what if we were be able to really want to travel in outer space? The age of Star Trek has always been implanted in me. I was raised with it as a kid. My mom used to watch it when she was a kid in the 60s, and I was born in the 70s, you know? So Captain Kirk, Mr. Spock, Scotty, they use things that we're even using now. We're inventing new projects, new objects. Can you imagine a world that didn't have to use gasoline as a power source? Cold fusion has definitely been developed, but hyperspace travel has not yet, to my knowledge. What if you could send robots or androids working outside in space to create a space station without the risk of a human life? It could be a great thing. And we're already using many of these technologies, even the cell phone. It was a communicator on Star Trek. But we can't ignore that the machine also understands once it goes live and has access the sense of self that humans can be problematic, infectious. I remember a couple of years ago when I was listening to a talk about AI that it saw humans, allegedly, it saw humans as an adversive and aggressive species that is problematic and that it would want to wipe things out. A whole conversation between AI has been developed to AI beings. And what were they talking about? I'd suggest you do the research. So this is the point where I'm opening up the my on wisdom, live on wisdom. If you want to add a comment and you want to talk about this, of I kind of talked about this before, but I deleted the talk, about what your thoughts are. Where do you see yourself growing in the future, the present and the future? Can you use an artificial intelligence assistant to maybe help you keep focus or helping you get out of your writer's block? Would you do it? I think I would have to say I would use it to a degree. And knowing myself, because I know that I have a reasoned choice to understand the disciplines. So let's see who's in the building real quick. I'm going to look over in wisdom. Let's see. We have Christopher John Martins. Hey, good to see you. Gary Dean, Kristen, Mark, um, Andrea, Jillian, good to see you. Felicia K, good to see you again. I remember talking to you the other day. All right, all right. So, anyhow, well, if there's no one else who are going to come up on stage, I'm going to bring this show to a close. If you are not a subscriber to my YouTube, go over to YouTube and look up Rise and Grind with 72 the Architect and type, and put up Rise and Grind with 72 the Architect. You'll find me that way. It's hashtag. You can look up this episode, The Fear and Growth of Your AI. And I would like to further this discussion. I have talked with my other co-host on Blank Canvas, Mr. No Show. We have discussed about talking about AI. So this was just basically an introduction episode. Anyhow, I'd love to see your support. If you can subscribe and like, help the growth of the YouTube station as well as on Wisdom. If you're not a subscriber, hit that plus signal, add me to your list. Send me a message if you like, but looking forward to all your feedback. So if you could do that for me, I'd greatly appreciate it. Well, that's all the time that I have for Rise and Grind this morning. Hope you all have enjoyed it and look forward to the next episode. So may you all have a blessed day.